Hello everyone. I would like to talk about the state of Wizard101 content creation in this day and age, 2024. In this video, I'm going to be talking about basically all forms of content in Wiz and the content creation that has worked and the content creation that hasn't worked. And I've seen a lot of players on, Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, and I feel like a lot of players feel this way as well. They just don't really seem to find any good content creation on Wiz anymore. Now, am I saying there's no good Wiz content creators out there? No, absolutely not. I know so many good people out there that honestly just don't have a lot of subs or don't get a lot of views, and a lot of the time they will quit because they don't really see the work to reward return. An example I can use for myself is my recent players raid guide video. This is probably my video I've worked the hardest on in terms of like edits and all. Very high quality video. In terms of YouTube and stuff, it does not perform very well, and you'll see this a lot with a lot of really good content creators on Wiz, and they'll just stop because of that. YouTube just simply rewards quantity over quality for the most part. So yeah, let's talk about why Wizard101 content creation seems kind of dry and why people are feeling this way in the community. Firstly, let's talk about raids. Raids are very, very niche, and it's basically the hardest form of content in game. It's like a 12-player dungeon where all 12 of those members have to stay committed to the dungeon for 3 hours straight. So yeah, most people just either don't know what this is, or if they do and they want to do it, they simply can't because the barrier to entry is way too high. You're kind of in a tough spot here, considering most of the player base doesn't know what a raid is, or they're not interested in the raid because there's been a lot of tension between the community. So it's kind of at a state where the people who know about the raid and do the raid either just don't care to watch content because they've already done it, or people in the player base, the casuals, are frustrated with raids. They don't care to watch it, or they don't care to hear about it anymore because they couldn't get in and do it. And a very good thing you can highlight here is something like Gatekeeper of the Apocalypse, which is like probably the hardest badge in game to this date to get. I would say most people, I would say 98%, 99% of the game isn't going to even know what that badge is, or how could they care to know about it because they don't even know anything about the raid anyways, right? So you could, in theory, make the highest form quality content in the game beating that raid, but if most of the player base don't know about it, it's not going to get views and it's not going to perform well. And that's kind of why you see a lot of people just not make raid content anymore, and I think my first raid video I did for the Voracious Void, that one actually did very well over time. However, unfortunately, in King Style fashion, that raid was a one-hit wonder, and then the raid after that, Crank Sky raid, killed off a lot of the raiding community due to the barrier to entry being even more unreasonable than it was in the first place. And now, with this new players raid, things have gotten worse because the community has gotten even smaller, and they actually made the incentives to do the new raid not even there. So it's just really not good unless you care about like reading the dialogue and experiencing the content, I guess. So yeah, basically just to recap this point here, it's essentially the content is so inaccessible and difficult, only like 1% of the player base can do it, but the people who are doing it aren't going to watch content on how to do it because they've already done it. Secondly, I would like to talk about PvP content. This is something I've done for quite some time, and there's not really a lot of creators like there used to be in the past in Wiz, and I'll talk about briefly why at the start here. It's simply just because when Rochambeau came out, the game got completely mixed up, and the whole game is basically different from the past 12 years or so before Rochambeau that Wiz came out, right? So things now are completely different, and players either just don't like it or it's too much to understand. So yeah, just getting into things right away here. The barrier to entry is extremely, extremely high. Now you have two sets of PvP in my opinion. You have the very high level of play, which is where players know exactly what they're doing in the meta, and they know exactly what they're talking about, which is kind of something I have chosen to specialize in. And then you also have the lower rank play, which is more casual, more likable personality, not as toxic, not as meta heavy, more just fun strats and losing a lot, for example. But in my opinion, Wiz content creation in terms of PvP is nearly impossible because of how long the metas last and how unbalanced the game is with that meta length combination. And as somebody who does specialize in the higher ranks and form of PvP, it's difficult for me because I have a lot of people in my chat who'd be like, "Oh, Liam, you should just try this, try that," and it's frustrating, especially like when it's on my storm, right? Because like I know everything about the storm. I was the first one to do the impossible on the school, and I studied the school down to a T, right? So it's like when people try to help me, I understand they're trying to help, but it's like I've already tried and done everything, but the meta and the game doesn't get updated, so it's just frustrating. Now, I could put on an act and be like, "Oh, wow, thank you, chat, for telling me Storm Owl does the most damage for a 10 pip hit. Wow." I could act surprised and be like, "Yeah, you know, bam, wow, cool." But unfortunately, that's just not me. But yeah, I'm not going to sell out and put on a show and act for you guys and be like, "Oh, wow, this is a great move," or "This is common sense, this card does damage." Like, I'm not going to do that, you know? And there are people out there who do make content like that and will be like, "Oh, Life Scion is nuts," or something. I don't know, man. It's just a really, really awkward space with barrier to entry being too high, things being too complex to understand, and a lot of toxicity at the higher ranks and all. And people who do play at the higher ranks, a lot of people don't like to watch them because a lot of the time we'll just dismiss what you guys say in the chat, and you guys might not like us for that, even though we're right? So it's a tough thing. So obviously you have your PvE content creators, your Titans, you have like Blaze Lifehammer, Zen Master Blue, all around at the peak of Wiz and all. And they're not really around anymore, unfortunately. You got like Fairy Queens as well. She does PvE content. Generally, PvE content is very difficult to come by now, right? As of recent years, we've only had two like hardcore PvE players blow up, which is Hey, it's Max and Zara. Now there are many other content creators out there that make really good quality content, and I actually watch them quite a bit, and they have very nice videos, but they only have a couple hundred subs maybe and all. And it's just really sad to see, right? Because you have so many people out there who have unique, cool ideas, and their editing is really good, very nice videos, but they don't really see the light of day. And I can tell you, as somebody who does YouTube, it's really depressing kind of just put in all this time, all this work editing a video, and then it's like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. Like, it doesn't hit or perform well, right? It makes you not want to do it again. PvE Wiz content is really tough to do as an endgame player because someone like me who already has gotten everything done in the game, every form of content, has every single piece of gear and pet, everything in the game, it's hard to go back and figure out, okay, how can I make content out of this? How can I make content out of that? When, to me, or I guess the elitist community, I guess if you will, it's just common sense. But the more casual players who are more relatable in their content at all is what people like to shift towards. The people who are like, "Oh wow, Storm Owl does damage," shit like that. So yeah, I think PvE content is just in a weird place right now. You have a couple of people who can make it work and all, but it's just really odd to see a lot of the good content creators I know, they're a very small size, and it's really, really unfortunate to see because I do think they should be a lot bigger, but they just don't get views. Next up, I'd like to talk about guides. Now, Wiz guides are very hit or miss. They can either hit, like a lot of my videos on the channel where I make builds, I talk about new stuff in the update, how to do it. They can do really well, or you'll have stuff like my raid video recently that probably will do decent over time, right? But as of right now, it's a 9 out of 10 on my rankings of my video, which means bad, right? So Wiz content in terms of guides is very, very hit or miss. And I think it's just simply a thing of like, do people even know about the content? If they do, they'll probably watch it, like how to get a gold key, how to get the best storm build or something, stuff like that. People will watch it because, well, they actually know about it, unlike a raid. Or my pet video, my pet guide video, it's my #2 best video on the channel here, actually. The only video better than that is my ultimate gear guide to Wizard101, which again, these are videos that people are going to look at because, well, they know that it exists in the game. In conclusion, Wiz content creation right now is in a really weird space because a lot of the time the game just does not simply get updated, or they're not making the correct updates within the game itself, which makes a lot of the creators and the community, for that matter, very bitter and frustrated, which also leads into the, rampant negativity, which is on YouTube and on streams now. And you guys would be like, oh, Liam, you're so negative all the time. And you guys aren't wrong. Like, I can look back on my channel and see what you guys are talking about. Whether you're right or wrong, yes, my stuff is more negative, but that simply comes from the fact that Wiz is not getting updated, and the updates they do make are just pointless updates that don't do anything, and that time could have went towards like better updates in the game, right? A good example of this, guys, is raids, right? Raids are such a big thing to have in the game. They could probably pump out a whole side world every summer with that amount of resources and all, right? But instead, they make a whole raid every summer for 1% of the player base. And you could go on and on with this, raids, PvP balancing changes that's led a lot of the player base to quit since Rochambeau came out. PvE as well, you talk about this like 4 years ago when fan favorite shads got changed, like Glowbug and FFA. I know a lot of people don't like the FFA change and all. But yeah, Wiz content nowadays is basically consisting of a lot of newer, smaller channels that make really good PvE content, but people don't watch it. You have PvP creators out here and raiders just talking trash about the game because that's all there is to do, because there's no updates about the game to even be positive on. And to the people who always say you're so negative, Liam, you guys can look at the videos and the new updates where I actually make videos talking about the positive changes, right? But I can't always make a positive video because the negativity always outweighs the positivity in terms of Wiz nowadays. But yeah, that's kind of where Wiz content is nowadays. It's just in a really, really weird spot and all. And yeah, I decided to talk about it as, a creator and share my thoughts with you guys and all. And I, seeing it talked about on Reddit. I think Val was telling me about it. You should check out her channel if y'all haven't. She makes PvE Wiz content. I thought it was a cool idea to talk about for a video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave your thoughts and feedback down there in the comments. I will be reading them. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, leave a like and a sub. Take care, guys.